Hello, this is William from Visual Components. In this video, I'm going to give you a brief introduction about flows and transport in process modeling. For example, in the 3D world I have a layout open. If I run the simulation, I can create products, but I don't have any logic to define where that product needs to go and how it gets there. Because what I want is the parts to go from here into the machine, be processed, and then go to this conveyor here. And I want to use the robot as a resource. So I'll reset. I'll now go to the Process tab. I don't need to work with products, but I can display it here. I'm working with this product type called VC Cylinder. And now I'll click Flow to access the Process Flow Editor. For the product, it has a flow group. So many products can belong to the same flow group. They can only belong to one, though. If you need a different flow group, just create it and put the product in that flow group to have different steps for each product type you need. In this case, we have no steps at all, so we have to tell where the cylinder needs to go. I'll add a step. Let's add it from the conveyor to the machine, which is small turning, and then to the conveyor. So it's this process here, and then this process here. Notice we have broken links here, so we have to define how they get there. So this is where the transport system comes into play. So I need to define a route from here to the machine. I get the preview, and then from the machine to this location here. Now by default it will use an interpolation mode for moving the part to and from those locations. So now if I run the simulation, the part should flow into the machine because there is a route that can get it there. You can see it's moving. The process is now running, and the parts are flowing to and from the machine. Like so, but we don't want that, of course, so let's reset. I'll now select the icon here, which defines how that transportation is being done. So with it selected, I can go to its properties, and I can define how long it takes to transport the item, and a way of implementing that transport. So notice I have options to just interpolate the motion from one point to another. I can use a conveyor or a robot controller, which I have in my 3D world. So I'll select the robot controller here. It is updated in the transport link as well as in the process steps. Let's do the same now for this transportation. So I can select it in the flow editor as well in the 3D world, and we'll define it as a robot controller. So now if I run the simulation, the robot is now being used to pick and place the part to and from the machine. Like so. And it's that easy. But let's not stop there. Let's add another step for the VC cylinder. I'm going to copy and paste this machine. So I'll go back to my Home tab. You could, of course, use a different component, but I'll right-click Copy, right-click Paste. Here's the other machine. Let's circle it all the way around. There we go. And I'm just going to make sure the robot can reach it. So right there should be fine. Now if we go back to our Process tab and look at the Flow Editor again, you can see that if I was to run the simulation, these steps still work for the product. It's just that now, since I copy and pasted the machine, there is an extra opportunity to use this machine for the process as well. But notice there is no route defined to get the part to this machine. There is one for this one. So this is where the confusion might come into play between the process steps and the transportation system you can see in the 3D world. I have defined routes of how parts can go to and from different nodes or locations. I do have the steps the part needs to take, but if I have some open-ended route, there's no way to get the part there. Of course the resource can't put it there. So to fix this, just have to do what I did earlier. So from the conveyor to this machine, and now from this machine to this conveyor. Notice we still have that issue of interpolating the motion or how the part is transported to its next location, so I can select it here and have it use the robot. The same for the other one as well. And now if I run the simulation, we should now be able to use both machines. And voila, there you go. Let's reset and now get a bit crazy. Let's select this machine You could also just click the processes button here. And notice that these processes have the same name, so they're kind of automatically grouped together in terms of the process steps. But what we can do is select this process and change its name. Oh. So let's call it small turning side quest. Feeling very adventurous today. So now this process has a new name. So if I now go back to my flow editor, you can see that is not a step in the cylinders process. So if I now run the simulation, parts will not go to this machine. Oh. But what I can do, since I have a route defined, is I can reset, and before we go to the conveyor, let's go to our side quest. But notice we have that other issue we saw earlier, is we don't have any route to go from this machine to the other machine, for example from here to there. So what do? Teach a route to go there. So from that point to this point, or this node. And now we have a route. It can be interpolated, use a conveyor type thing, but in this case it makes sense to use the robot controller, of course. So now I have a valid route. That side quest is now in the flow for our product. Run the simulation, and what we should see is the product should start on this machine. Once it's finished, the part will then be transported to this machine, be processed, and then put on this conveyor here. And that's what we are seeing. And yep. And to filter out these lines, what you can do is select a process step here in the flow editor, and then filter the transport links you see in the 3D world. So I'll just click this checkbox and notice that in order to get to the conveyor, it's linked to this process here, so that's why it's showing how it can get there, the part. And there you go. So this completes the video. If you have any more questions, please feel free to visit our forum at forum.visualcomponents.com. And as always, have a wonderful day.